Social media is also something that we as journalists need to be paying close attention to. The other idea that I have about social media is that we should be listening more on social media. And this is an example of, not from journalism, but showing you how institutions are listening. People make mistakes on social media, in real life all the time, but now you're seeing it's the reaction to the mistakes you make that's important. So some of you might remember an episode of Seinfeld where they were waiting in a Chinese restaurant for a table. Does anyone remember this? And the entire 22 minutes is them complaining to each other. What's the difference today? You don't complain to each other, you complain to the world. And so you saw this slow service at the Standard Grill. But here's what's interesting. The next morning, the Standard Hotel writes, "We're sorry to hear that. Perhaps you will give us a second chance. DM us the next time you make a reservation." Direct messages. So this is an example of how, even if you make mistakes, are you listening? Are you responding to that? I think is something that we need to be thinking about as journalists as we do this. Here is a tweet by somebody. All apologies to anybody who works in AirTran or is flying home on AirTran or has relatives who work there. The point I'm bringing up about this is this person whose tweet this is not in journalism, he's on a reality show, but I can show you every day journalists tweeting like this about brands, about companies, about people they cover, about institutions. And what's happening is that these companies are keeping close tabs on your tweets. And they will save it the way I've saved this. And will wait for 2 years from now when you do a story about the airline industry and say, look, you were biased. Your newspaper, your television station was biased against us. This is really important that I want you to think about this as you're looking at the world of social media. That anything you share can and will be used against you. So the way I do social media is that I take extra time when I'm posting something online on social media. So we'll just go in here and I'll show you that when I'm posting something on this, I spend between 3 and 6 minutes on every tweet I write. And you'll say, boy, you don't have a life, do you? And it's true, I don't have a life. But why do I spend so much time before I tweet and on every single tweet I do, unless I'm covering something live, is because every time I tweet, I'm setting myself up for trouble. Social media is the only thing I do every day that can get me fired today. Social media is the only thing I do every day that can get me divorced today. And it's also social media is the only thing I do today that will be in the Library of Congress. Right? You're all aware of this, that the Library of Congress archives every tweet that's sent out. That should give you pause when the next time you're hitting send. But think about this. So Twitter took 3.5 years to hit its first billion tweets. 3.5 years. But it now hits 1 billion tweets every 3.5 days. Right? That's how fast the world of social media is changing. That's how fast it's all being gathered and stored out in the Library of Congress. So think about that. When you're posting, I encourage you, if there are people in your life who are using social media, that it can and will be used against you. We've seen journalists lose their jobs. We've seen journalists be suspended for things they've put on social media. The excuse is, I thought I was just sharing it with my friends, but it's not what you're doing. You're sharing it with the world, no matter how hard you try and keep it separate. One of the things that I also say about social media is that it is a good indicator, somewhat, of what people are thinking and doing. So if you might find that somebody says things like this about an airline they're unhappy with, but there may be something else that they are happy with another airline, they'll share that as well. So I'm not just saying, don't say negative stuff about the people and institutions you might cover one day. Be careful about saying being too positive as well, because somebody else will hold that against you. And in the airline business in particular, we see a lot of that. Whenever someone asks me, why should I be on Twitter, I'm going to give you an example of why you want to be on there. I told you about the travel gov